we will dive in. So as we come together, I know we're coming from all parts of Indian country, and so we wanted to open in a good way. So there is something that has been repeated many times by our elders. Please come in a good way. Enter in and have good thoughts about what we're doing together. Remember that if something is bothering you, let us know. We will try to help. Remember the words we are using have been said by our elders many times. Let us come together in a good way. Let us look forward toward having good doings. And remember, give thanks. And also be a good relative. So with that, we come together and we begin our presentation for today. And again, I want to say welcome and I'm glad that you can join and be with us here as we have the orientation webinar for the OJJDP 2015 Grantee meeting. Could you advance to the next slide, please? My name is Courtney Yarholer. I am Sac and Fox, Pawnee, Otoe, and Creek. I live in Oklahoma City, and I am the program manager of the Indian Country Child Trauma Center, OJJDP Tribal Youth Training and Technical Assistance Center. And that's a mouthful. I know that's a mouthful to say, so I'm pretty sure it's a lot to hear. But my name is Courtney Yarholer, and I'll be one of your facilitators today. And I'm going to pass it over to our other facilitators, and starting with Kara. Kara, it's all yours.
Hi, this is Kara McDonough, and I'm with the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. We're really happy that you're able to be here with us today, and I'll be helping to facilitate the webinar. We're going to go through a number of things that we hope are going to be really helpful to you, so I look forward to spending the next bit of time with you.
Hello, I'm Sherry Cantillon, also of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to be in communication with you today about the important things that we'll be covering and for the future success we're anticipating for all of your programs. Thank you.
So we're also going to introduce you to your program managers. We put this slide together, and it shows the different folks here at the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention that you'll be working with. And so I'm going to allow all of these program managers are on the line, and I'm going to we're going to go through and have folks introduce themselves. And you can see under each name, you can see the programs that are going to be working, most directly with that program manager.
Good afternoon. My name is Tenzing Laden, and I'm one of the program managers for Travel Grants. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. And please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or concerns about your grant.
And hi, this is Kara McDonough again, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody, but especially with Grantee and Washoe. And we have relationships from the past, and I'm looking forward to learning more about what you're doing this year.
Hello, this is Carrie Struck, and much like Tenzing and Kira, I'm happy to be on the phone and welcome all of you, and I look forward to working specifically with the 3 TYP grantees that I will be managing. So please do contact me with any questions or concerns after today's presentation or throughout the life of your grant. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angela Parker. I've been in this office for many, many years. I've worked with the TYP program for many, many years in the past. And I just want to welcome you guys here on this call. And if you have any questions or concerns with anything pertaining to your grant award, please feel free to give me a call. Thank you.
And this is Sherry Cantillon again. I am delighted to be working with 3 tribes as well and looking forward to being in communication over the life of the grant. And if there's anything that I can do to be of assistance, I please invite you to be in touch with me as much as you need to. So looking forward to what's ahead. Thank you.
So we just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of this webinar and what our goals are for the time together. We wanted to make sure that you got a little bit of an introduction to the OJJDP staff and to the Training and Technical Assistance Center staff. We'd much rather be in a meeting and be able to have conversations face to face, but it's not always possible. And so that's why we wanted to really put the pictures up there anyway, so you get a sense that we're actual people behind the email addresses. And we also wanted to introduce you to each other and to help you understand, where the other programs are located and who the other people in your cohort of grantees are. We're also just going to go over some programmatic and some financial resources for you. It's a lot of information. I know there's probably some of you that have been through this orientation before. This year we tried to actually revise it to be a little less lengthy. We're trying to give you the information, but mostly point you to where you can get your questions answered as they come up, because we know it's a lot to take in at once. We also just want to make sure that you understand the reporting requirements for the award and let you learn a little bit more about our new Training and Technical Assistance Center and some of their expertise and some of the way that they plan to work with the programs. So the next thing we're going to do is to just talk a little bit about the Training and Technical Assistance Center.
Great, thank you, Kara, and thank you for the rest of the program managers for introducing yourself. And before we move on, we wanted to take a little moment to see who else on the call, and because we know we're all joining in from different places, different locations across Indian country, and so we wanted to give a little time here to for you to share that. And so this is our first exercise in using the chat box. So I'm going to invite you to type your name into the chat box, your name and who you're representing, and also if you have more than one person viewing the webinar with you on the computer that you're watching, please enter their name as well, and so that we can kind of get an idea and see who all and how many people are on joining us today. So please feel free to begin using that and typing. And as you're doing that, we'll proceed with some more of the introductions on our side. So, Tiffany, can you go back to the previous slide? Great. So I want to, before we get into the individuals, introducing the individuals here at the Indian Country Child Trauma Center, I want to introduce the Indian Country Child Trauma Center. We are the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, Tribal Youth Programs, Training and Technical Assistance Center. And it's hosted by us at the Indian Country Child Trauma Center here at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. Our contact information is below, and that is our central number that comes to our office, and it will be routed, and you can ask for Courtney Yarholer or the Indian Country Child Trauma Center, and you will be transferred. We also have additional contact information that will be delivered to you after this webinar, but you can hold on to this number as a starting point and a base number. We also have our email address down there, so if you was to email us, you can email us at this address and we will receive that email. Okay, Tiffany, next slide, please. Again, it's an honor to meet you. I am the program manager. My name is Courtney Arholer, and I'm the guy that's looking off in a distance. I don't know where that picture came from, but we're using it today. And like I said, the Indian Country Child Trauma Center is housed at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center, located in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which many consider the heart of Indian Country. It was established in 2004. The Indian Country Child Trauma Center is a training and technical assistance center that provides culturally adaptations of evidence-based treatment models, advocates for tribal sovereignty by assisting with policy and program development, promotion of tribal state consultation, and prevention, evaluation, and research in disparities and disproportionality. More importantly, we recognize the cultural strengths that allows healing, growth, thriving, and a sense of belonging. We look forward to supporting the OJJDP tribal grantees in fulfilling their individual missions to improve their juvenile justice systems. That's a little bit about our center. The director of our center is Miss Dolores Bigfoot, Dr. Bigfoot. Many of you may have heard of her name, but she is with the Caddo Nation and affiliated with the Northern Cheyenne Nation, and she is our director of the Indian Country Child Trauma Center. Our assistant director is Dr. Jamie Barges, who's Cherokee, and our project manager, the project manager is Miss Janie Braden, and she's Osage and Kaw. And we also have another project administrative assistant. Her name is Miss Gandra Level, and she is Kiowa. And so we are excited to be the team here that's helping your team and to be partners with you and the endeavors moving forward. So next slide, please. We have additional staff, and these are our training assistants, technical assistance center training assistance coordinators, or TA coordinators as we're calling them. And the way that we organize ourselves as a TA center and are organizing our service delivery and how we are going to work with each and every one of you as we've organized within regional settings. And just for time's sake, I'm going to introduce those that are that I haven't already introduced. But like you see, we have in our Northwest region, we have Miss Paulette Running Wolf, Dr. Running Wolf, and she is Blackfeet. Southwest region, we have Anna Clow. She is Muskogee Creek and Yuchi. Myself, let's see. The Great Plains region, we have Miss Natalie Stites, she is Cheyenne River Sioux. Our senior advisor, Miss Jerry Weisner, is Muskogee Creek. Another senior advisor we have, we'll be working with is Miss Etheline Ironclad Two Dogs, who's Oglala Sioux. In our Oklahoma and surrounding states region, we have Miss Glenna Stumbling Bear, and she's Kiowa. And we also have Miss Erin Thin Elk, and she is Sinkanju. So we thank you. That's our team. And as we move forward after this webinar, later in the month, you will be contacted by your TA coordinator and begin that journey together. And so we look forward to that, and so be looking forward to hearing from the TA coordinator that will be serving your region. Next slide, please. So this slide presents a concise picture of what the Indian Country Child Trauma Center, Tribal Training and Technical Assistance Center will be responsible for to support tribal grantee development. So we are responsible for the training and technical assistance side of your program development. And so what we do is we support development of projects through culturally appropriate programming and evaluation, trauma-informed care principles, effective prevention and intervention approaches, coordination of resources. And with that, we hope to help you reduce the number of youth and juvenile justice systems and reduce exposure to trauma. So again, as we enter this partnership with you and working with your individual communities, we look forward to seeing those things come to fruition, and we are excited to be a part of the journey. So that's what we do. And our next slide will give us a little bit of how we do it. And this slide gives us an overview. As you can see, we're offering comprehensive methods to meet your level of need. And so we're doing a variety of things to provide technical assistance, to provide training, and to provide opportunities to help build the capacity of your programming, your communities, and all the different things that's going into the development of the opportunities that's in front of you. So our training and technical assistance delivery system, we have grantee-specific training and technical assistance. We are going to maintain communication both on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, and those are going to look very differently from each other. Your weekly communication, you can see that through various methods, email and listserv correspondence. You'll also have ready access to your TA coordinator. So whenever you have questions, you will have somebody, your TA coordinator will be there to walk with you along the way in your journey. And so we really want to focus on building that relationship. And that's where all of our TA coordinators, we're so excited to have them on board. And we know that they're really good in what they do. And so we are all partners with you. And we look forward to that in the open communication as well. So some of the methods that we're delivering this communication through, like we said, telephone or webinars. We will have begin early next year. We're going to begin a series of webinars that we're inviting each and every one of you to, and you'll hear more about that in the presentation later. Regional and cluster trainings. So regional trainings, communities of practice. We also are launching a website, which is in the process right now and process of being developed. And we are looking to have a robust website that will allow you to receive information as well as interact in a way that we can provide and be responsive to the questions that you may have. So we're looking at also developing in the process of developing virtual learning opportunities using avatars. And so we have a project that we're working on right now that we're very excited to share and to get out to you. And you'll hear more about that later. And we also can provide on-site visits and distribution lists. So those are the different methods that we have. In addition to that, I think probably one of the most important things that we want to ensure that you receive is that you receive technical assistance based off of our guiding principles. And those guiding principles are practicing trauma-informed care with an understanding of the impact of historical trauma, promoting culturally based tribal-specific teachings and practices, and embracing the wisdom of elders who said, the answers lie within. So again, the language that I've been using and talking about being partners with you, we understand that we may have access to some resources and information, but the wisdom lies within your communities, the families that we're working with, and so we hope to work with you and create that environment so that we can continue to flourish and thrive within our Indian communities across the nation. So again, the answers lie within. That's one of our guiding principles. So Tiffany, if you could advance the next slide, please. One of the methods that we use in delivering technical assistance is, well, let me start off by saying that we've discussed a framework of what would be culturally based, culturally sensitive, trauma-informed, and strengths-based. The wisdom of ceremony framework is certainly something that all of our traditional and ceremonial elders would recognize. However, it might take a little bit of explaining when it's on a slide. I know it can not necessarily reflect what maybe many of our elders may know. So let me do my best to reflect this framework that we're going to be sharing and encouraging program development within this framework. And as we were thinking about a way to frame our technical assistance and frame our interactions, we look at what we call the wisdom of ceremony framework. We know that ceremony across Indian country is meaningful, it's purposeful, and it's also sacred. The elements, all the things that go into ceremony are very special to the tribal communities and our tribes. And we know that ceremonies differ across communities, across tribes, for different reasons. We have different reasons for ceremonies. We have different meanings. We have different purposes. However, we've identified and recognized that there are some elements within every ceremony. And those elements are planning and preparation, commitment, sacrifice, follow through, and rest and reflection. It looks like we have a typo on our slide. The second commitment is supposed to be follow through. But basically, what the idea is that within any ceremony, there's always this element where we're planning and we're preparing ourselves for that ceremony, whether if it's gathering materials, gathering wood, gathering resources, calling people together, bringing people together, telling people what we want, making offerings in preparation for this ceremony to happen. There's also another element of commitment. Once we make that offering, we know that we're committed to it. And that commitment is very strong because that's what ties us to the rest of the ceremony. We also know that within any ceremony, there's always this element of sacrifice, whether it be sacrificing comfort, sacrificing time, sacrificing a resource of some kind. We know that through that sacrifice and through that giving of ourselves and that discomfort sometimes, the blessings come from that. And so that's just an old teaching. And so that element of sacrifice is a part of every ceremony that we partake in. And then follow through. There's an element of follow through in terms of we have to, once we make the commitment, start planning, and we make the commitment from the beginning to the end, we have to follow through with it. We have to follow through with it from beginning to ending. And then finally, we reach this element of rest and reflection, where we can rest and reflect on what happened during this ceremony, during this time together where people came, contributed, helped one another. For whatever the purpose and meaning of the ceremony was, it brought people together, and all the blessings that came along with it. It's an opportunity for us to rest and reflect upon that. So with that idea and those elements of the wisdom of ceremony, we don't look at it in terms of steps or a linear process that you have to have one before the other. We just recognize that all of these elements are part of this interaction and part of this ceremony for it to be a successful ceremony, for it to be something that we can rest and reflect upon and see those blessings. So within that framework, you'll see that we've included a few examples at the bottom of the kinds of activities that we translate into, that would translate from your program activities, programming things that you might be doing, and where they may fit, and what kind of what elements they may be hitting upon while you're doing those activities. And the intention for that is when we work in Indian country, many of us have a lot of experience working in Indian country, and I know a lot of you do that's listening on the phone have a lot of experience. And we've seen grant programs come and we've seen grant programs go. And we don't necessarily always see things change. And so what this is doing is it's helping us. Well, in addition to that, not always seeing things change, we also sometimes we see how when there's an important aspect of the program or the grant, it might be doing evaluations and collecting information. That's not always understood by our community members of the value of what it could bring. And so for us to frame, say, evaluation within this element was one of the elements within the system, within this wisdom of ceremony framework, we're hoping to create some value, to create some meaningful and purposefulness of every activity that you'll be doing. So again, we've included a few examples of things that might fit into certain areas of the elements that you're going to be doing. Some of those might be community readiness, so assessing the readiness of your community. It might be looking at your goals and objectives and your timeline. That's all in the planning and preparation. In terms of commitment, it might be youth engagement, community engagement, engaging the partners that you're working with, engaging the systems that you're working with, thinking about what kind of sacrifices we might be making while we're creating these partnerships or creating these activities and implementing these activities. Follow through. Are we actually following through? Are our partners doing what they said they're going to do? The young people that we're working with, are we helping them, doing everything that we can to help them follow through with their own personal plans? And then also the rest and reflection. We fit the evaluation piece in there because that's where we can really what it is. Evaluation is collecting information, reviewing that information, and also witnessing the improved outcomes of the program development, of all the implementation of the things that you're doing. It's changing behaviors, and so it's an opportunity for us to witness that change. So that's a little bit about the wisdom of ceremony framework and how we are using the wisdom of ceremony framework to frame our work as we move forward. And you'll hear more about it, and I know it will. You'll be able to contribute to this wisdom of ceremony framework as you come together and begin planning, and we work together to develop those plans. So we're going to move on to the next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Kara for this next slide.
I hope that you all see that we do have a lot of resources that we want you to be aware of. So you've heard from our Training and Technical Assistance Center, and you see all the smart, experienced people that are waiting to be a resource to you and to your programs. We hope that you'll remember that as you get things underway, that they're there to be able to assist you, and your program managers are also available to assist you. And then we also fund some other initiatives that and they're actually with us on this webinar, and they're going to take a little bit of time to talk about their projects. But before we do that, I did want to make one additional introduction. We don't have a slide or a picture for the person that I want to introduce from OJJDP because she just started. But we're absolutely thrilled to have a senior tribal policy advisor join us, and her name is Marilyn Zimmerman, and she's going to be working with OJJDP on a variety of issues that impact tribes. So I'm just going to give her a minute to introduce herself and say hello.
Good morning, everyone. I recognize several tribes that I've worked with in the past. I come to OJJDP, as many of you may know, as the past director of the National Native Children's Trauma Center at the University of Montana. I'm also a former member of the Attorney General's Advisory Committee on Children Exposed to Violence and the White House Commission on Child Abuse and Neglect Fatalities. I'm really excited to join this organization, this federal agency, and work towards creating opportunities for our tribal youth around the nation. I'm humbled to be here. I'm humbled to see all of the tribes that are listed, particularly on this project. And I want to just say congratulations for receiving that funding and looking forward to meeting each of you. And I, too, have an open door policy. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, it's my job to listen to Indian Country, so please feel free to reach out to me. And it would be just marilyn.zimmerman@usdoj.gov. And I apologize that with my name and my picture, which has me with long brown hair, and I have short gray hair now, isn't available, but it was an old picture. So please feel free to reach out. Congratulations, and I'm looking forward to your future creating wellness and wholeness for your youth in the future. Thanks.
Great. And we'll make sure that you get Marilyn's contact information, and you all will be meeting her. So I'm going to turn it over to the folks from the Resource Basket. We're very excited to have them as partners. We recognize that the folks in Alaska really need very specific kinds of assistance, training, and technical assistance. So we're very happy to have the Resource Basket, and they're going to talk a little bit about what they do.
Thank you so much, Kara. Warm hello and good morning from Alaska. My name is Amy Gorn, and perhaps we can go to the next slide. And I am with Rural CAP, which I'll tell you about in just a moment, which hosts the Resource Basket Training and Technical Assistance Resource Center. And I am joined this morning with my colleague, Sonia Vent.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited about this new venture for myself. I just started in October, but really just began working on the project this month. Thank you for all of that wonderful information so far. I'm just really excited about, Courtney, what you've presented, and also seeing all the faces on the webinar. Thank you.
So as Kara mentioned, we are a unique training and technical assistance resource center specific to Alaska. And in 2012, the Rural Alaska Community Action Program, a statewide nonprofit based in Anchorage known as Rural CAP, was awarded funded from OJJDP to reduce youth delinquency by supporting the successful development of Alaska Native youth at home, in school, and in the community. This work has since been named the Resource Basket, gathering and sharing for Alaska Native youth success, with the idea that we all put into the basket and we all can take from the basket in sharing our resources to support our Alaska Native youth be healthy, successful, and culturally connected. We put together our network of experts and multidisciplinary friends and partners in providing our TTA, which originally and has been statewide in focus. We can provide training in TA and be responsive to any requests from rural Alaska. And we work to increase capacity to better meet Alaska Native youth's cultural needs and increase their youth voice and leadership in services. We have identified focus areas in the beginning of our work, which has stayed true to today, and they have been identified as community wellness and healing, youth development and prevention, early intervention, and diversion. We pulled together content on our website, www.alaskanativeYouth.org. And again, as I mentioned, we can provide training as well as connect with our partners for training and talk through needs as we hear them from our fellow Alaskans. We have some wonderful new work that we have expanded and grown into with OJJDP as of this fall, and that is Sonia's role with us.
Yes, and the new work, in October 2015, Rural CAP began providing direct technical assistance to the grantees, of whom many are in their last year, and that we've got some new ones. The 3 new grantees are the Tribe of Sandpoint, who was awarded a Healing to Wellness grant. The Tribe of Kodiak Shunak was awarded in September as well, and the Kenaitze Tribe was awarded a Healing to Wellness grant in September as well. They were all awarded in September, and they start October 1st in September of this year and end September 30th, 2018.
When we get to slide 23, you'll see where they're located in Alaska. They're all in the South Central and Aleutian regions of the state.
If you move to our next slide. You'll see our contact information.
Yes, and our contact information, as the Rural CAP PTA contacts, I'm the lead for all the OJJDP Alaska grantees. I'm Koikan Athabaskan. I'm from the interior of Alaska. Amy Gorn is the contact for all other agencies. The administrative contacts are Joy Brown, who's the project manager. Kathy Clemens is the director for our department, which is the Community Development Department here at Rural CAP. Next slide. And there you see us.
And so once again, we can certainly make contacts with everyone across the state if we're interested and make those connections, and especially with the new grantees who are working with Sonia, who are on today's webinar. And again, our website is alaskanativeyouth.org.
Yes, and I just had my first teleconference on Tuesday, and I was able to talk to many of the grantees then. I'm really excited about the format of this program, the guiding principles, the answers lie within. I'm very passionate about that quote, and it goes along with what I believe, and then also the wisdom of ceremony framework. Thank you for, it looks like a lot of work had gone into that, so I thank you for doing that and presenting it to us. And the next slide is the, I believe is the Unity group. Lenin Yazi.
Yes, hello. Thank you for that. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Linan Yazi. I'm a project coordinator for the Today's Native Leaders National Youth Leadership Initiative, and I'm also the Youth Council Liaison for Unity, which stands for United National Indian Tribal Youth. And we are a national nonprofit organization that was founded back in 1976 in Oklahoma by a gentleman named J.R. Cook. And we, as an organization, Unity provides leadership opportunities for Native American youth ages 14 to 24, and that's across the nation throughout Indian country. A couple of years ago, Unity actually moved our headquarters from Oklahoma City to Mesa, Arizona, where we currently reside, and we have a structure of 155 youth councils across the nation in about 36 different states. So we are very happy to, be here and be able to present to those of you who are currently working with our Native youth as well. And we're here and excited to be a resource to you all in regards to providing those leadership opportunities and information about how youth can get more involved in their communities. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about Unity's mission and how Today's Native Leaders came about. So, as I said, we're a national nonprofit organization. Our mission is to foster the spiritual, mental, physical, and social development of American Indian and Alaska Native youth. And so through our mission, we have two major events that kind of focus on those four elements, developmental elements for our youth. One is our mid-year conference, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a couple of minutes. And then we have our National Unity Conference. And so we provide we have a lot of our updated information at our website at www.unityinc.org. And so one of the major milestones that Unity is celebrating this coming year is our 40th anniversary. And so we're going back to Oklahoma City to, celebrate all of the years of youth leadership development. And so we also, provide different programs, one being the Unity 25 Under 25 Leadership Award Program, where the youth are nominated or can apply themselves to, be selected as an outstanding youth in Indian country, somebody who's been involved, somebody who's been active, somebody who is, you know, always working to make positive change. And so these awardees then have a leadership program throughout the year where they work as peer mentors. They also carry out projects themselves, and we also provide them training. So that's one of the programs that Unity has. Another one, and so we actually just made those applications for the 2016 class of 25 under 25. We made those applications available on our website just last week. So if anybody is interested in nominating any outstanding Native American youth, feel free to check out our website and download that application and submit one. Another program that we have going right now is called our Earth Ambassadors Program, which is an environmental stewardship program. They're actually going to be having their retreat in Arizona in a couple of weeks here, and they're also responsible for planning and creating projects based around environmental challenges or concerns that they may have. And so those are just a couple of the programs that we have. Now, one of the ones that I'm a project coordinator for is our Today's Native Leaders program that we provide. And this started out as a 4-year cooperative agreement with Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And we basically have 3 objectives for the Today's Native Leaders program. One of the objectives is for us to have 8 regional trainings and 2 national summits. We have to date had 4 of our regional trainings in Arizona, Florida, South Dakota, and Washington. And we did have our first national summit in conjunction with the White House Tribal Youth Gathering this past summer in Washington, D.C., and that was in July, where we were able to present on a national forum the youth projects that have been completed. And so our second objective is to have 32 total projects completed by the end of our granting time. Our third objective is to provide technical assistance to groups completing a project. So what happens is we have a 3-day training, and during the training, the youth are walked through a 10-step action planning process, which is based on one of Unity's prior curriculums. And they go through the process of planning the project, and then when they go home, they actually carry out the project. And so we provide all of the technical assistance as they do that. And so we definitely would invite any of you to bring youth to your, any of your youth to any of our events, and that would be great. You can find more information again at the Unity website at www.unityinc.org. And then finally, I'd just like to talk about a few of the events that we have coming up. So if we want to go on to the next slide. So here's a map of all of our events that we have, locations and dates for the Today's Native Leaders training. We have our next regional training coming up in April from the 15th through the 17th in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then we have our National Unity Conference. Actually, I'm sorry, prior to the April training, we have our mid-year conference in Mesa, Arizona, the National Mid-Year Conference for Unity. And that will be from February 12th through the 15th. Then we'll have our TNL training in St. Paul, Minnesota, and then we have the National Unity Conference celebrating our 40th anniversary from July 22nd through the 26th in Oklahoma City. And then in the fall, we'll be in Alaska, so we'll be working with the Rural CAP group as well to gather Alaskan Native youth. And then in the winter of next year, we'll be in Palm Springs, California. So again, here's a map of all of our locations. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything, feel free to contact me at the office. I did put my phone number on there, or you can contact me via email. So thank you again for all of the work that you guys are doing, and definitely let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Lynanne. This is Sherry Cantillon, and if we could move to the next slide, please. We'll do an introduction of programs for tribal youth that are funded by OJJDP. We are here for one reason only, and that's to help our children successfully reach their potential and talents so they can pay it forward to their families and communities. So on the next slide, you will see the two programs that we funded. Tribal Healing to Wellness Courts was Purpose Area 8, and in that area, 12 awards were made. The Tribal Youth Program, which is Purpose Area 9, received 7 awards, and these grants are for 3-year project periods. On the next slide, we have an interesting map, and this is where you're able to identify the tribes that successfully received 2015 awards and where those tribes are located. I think it's a fine representation of grant work that will be anticipating successful completion right across the country. There's good representation, and so we congratulate all those that were successful. And Courtney, I believe you're going to conduct a poll now, so I'm going to turn it back over to you, please.
Thank you, Sherry. Yes, we are going to conduct a poll. So Tiffany, is the screen going to change for us, or? Okay, there we go. So as we conduct this poll, what we wanted to do is we wanted to get you to help us out, help us get an idea of your current capacity of your newly funded grant. We understand and emphasize the newly funded part of that sentence because we understand that we're all in different stages and different stages of development. So this is just an opportunity for us to get a snapshot and get an idea of where we're at and with staffing. And so we thought we'd start there with staffing. I also want to mention that our answers are anonymous. There's no individual identifying information will be shared, so it's just going to be populated as a total number, and we'll be able to see percentages. So give you about a few seconds to about 20 seconds or so to select one of the following. Our grant staff is currently either fully staffed, partially staffed, or no permanent staff yet, but we are hiring. So if one of those, whichever one of those fits you and your situation, we invite you to please make a selection. Oh, wow. So we'll give it a few more seconds. As we get some more answers in. Also, as we're waiting, wanted to invite you again to please utilize the chat feature. So if you have any questions for us along the way, if there's something that's not clear, since I know we're not able to have all of the lines unmuted, and we're using the chat feature, I ask that you please enter your question into the chat box, and we will get to your questions towards the end of the webinar. Okay, so we're going to stop here on our poll, and the snapshot that we have, it looks like the majority, like 59% of those on the line have selected partially staffed, and that's great. We also see 18% that are fully staffed, and then 23% that we have no permanent staff yet, but we are hiring. And so that gives us an idea of kind of where we are at in terms of as a grantee and in our staffing situation. And maybe you're one of those that are in the process of hiring. I think hopefully it's comforting to know that you're not the only grantee that's in the process of hiring. And so this is what we wanted to do right here. So thank you all for sharing and sharing that information and being a part of our poll. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Kara and Sherry.
And so we're going to just talk a little bit. We talked about resources in terms of the training and technical assistance and our partners that are available to assist in your OJJDP contact. And we're going to talk a little bit more about additional programmatic and financial resources that you're going to need to have available as you negotiate this grant. We know that they can be complex. Some of you are very experienced with negotiating these complex federal grants, and some may be new at it. So if we can advance to the next slide. I just want to give you a sense in terms of the role of OJJDP. We're here to support your development, and so we do that really by working closely with the Training and Technical Assistance Project, and Courtney talked about that, as well as the Resource Basket and today's Native Leaders. But we're also here to monitor your implementation of your project. So as the federal agency and as stewards of the federal dollars, our job is really to check in with you regularly and to sort of see how things are going, to make sure that we're available if you have questions about the financial requirements, about your programmatic changes. And so there are a number of different mechanisms that you can use if you need to make changes. We know a lot of times the people that are involved in the grant program do change, particularly as you hire people. And we have a grants management system that's really the central kind of repository of that kind of official information. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But we wanted to just help you understand the kind of the difference between the role of the Training and Technical Assistance Centers versus the role of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. So if we can move to the next slide. These are the kind of monitoring activities that OJJDP program managers are involved in. Some of them are strictly administrative, so it's a matter of looking over your whole all the requirements of your grant. So that means your financial reports, your programmatic reports. So when we talk about desk reviews, that's really a chance for us to just take a look and see, does this grantee appear to be struggling with any of the requirements? And so there's a mechanism for us to do that here to see, if you're able to keep up with the different reports. We also do monitoring and site visits, and for us as program managers, it's really an amazing opportunity to be able to get out and actually speak to young people and families and meet with you personally and get a better sense of exactly where it is that you are and the unique situations that you are working in. Unfortunately, we're not able to visit every single grantee, but you would get notice if you're going to receive a site visit from a program manager, and they'll walk you through the kinds of things that they'll want to visit with you about. Like I said, it's definitely seeing your program firsthand and getting to speak to people, but it's also reviewing files and reviewing documentation that goes into your report. And then there are grant adjustment notices, and I'm not going to get too deep into that because you probably are not going to be submitting grant adjustment notices right here in the beginning of the grant, but we will continue to provide you with information about exactly how the grant adjustment notices work. But basically, they're an opportunity for you to officially request changes to your grant file. So if you need to change the official point of contact, if you need to change the official approved budget, if you need to change the scope of your work, the grant adjustment notices happen through the grant management system, and they're basically a request for that kind of official approval on those kinds of large issues that have to do with your grant. And so, the other monitoring activities we do is to, check on the drawdown of your funds. So obviously, if there's, a program that has been in effect for a year and hasn't drawn down any funds at all, it's it's important to us to make contact and to find out if there's something that we can help with, and to see what's happening, and to, you know, help you draw down those funds, because they really are allocated to make a difference for your young people in Indian country, and we want to see that you're able to use them for that purpose. And of course, establishing communication. Oftentimes, the email is really a great way to get in touch with us. We are very tuned into our email, which is why those email addresses were provided for you in the beginning of the webinar. So, you know, please do contact us with any questions, and you know, we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as we can. So on the next slide, actually Sherry is going to talk a little bit more about the grant management.
Thank you, Kara. So we're going to take a look at what you should be aware of in order to navigate your federal award with OJJDP. And an excellent place to start is by reviewing your official award file. And this can be found in the grants management system, which we refer always to GMS. So we really recommend that you print out a copy of the award package, and this is especially important for the program coordinator or director. Oftentimes we find that there are different people who are involved with the grant proposal in different ways. So one of the easiest ways to get everyone on the same page is for everyone to be working with the same documents. And if we do a monitoring site visit, like Kara has mentioned, one of the first things we ask is if we could please take a look at the grant award file to see that the program and financial staff all have the information they need to manage the grant to maximum effect. So if for any reason you do not have access to the GMS because perhaps of tribal policies, it's important that you find the people who do have access and get a copy of the proposal and the award package so that you can see all the details that are there. And always feel free, if there's any part of the award package that is not clear, immediately call your OJJDP program manager, and they'll be glad to walk through it with you and answer any questions that you might have. And as you can see, in order to access GMS, the grantee needs an ID and a password. So you all have the option of determining who the authorized users would be. There's a need for a point of contact. There can be more than one, a financial contact or multiple contacts for financial questions. A list of authorized representatives can be found in the quick guide. And in the GMS system, what you are submitting are your progress and financial reports. And also, as Kara mentioned, anytime you need a grant adjustment notice during the life of your grant to modify some aspect, say the length of time that you have to complete all your goals and objectives, for example, or as she mentioned, adjusting the budget for some reason, usually you work with your OJJDP program manager to talk about the change that you would like to do, and we can offer some suggestions or help out a little bit with some ideas, and then you can go into the grants management system and make modifications through the grant adjustment notice option that's in GMS. So one thing that I might just mention that is a little tip, please don't use what's called the correspondence function within GMS to get in touch with your OJJDP program manager. It's far easier for us to have a telephone call or email from you as opposed to working through GMS, because we're not always signaled that you have submitted something in writing to us in the GMS where you're trying to access your OJJDP program manager. So phone and email is the very best way to do that. So let's take a look at the next slide, if we may, please. This is just good contact information for you to tuck into your arsenal of information for future. The GMS does have a good help desk, and the 888 number is there for your review. The next little website is something that I share all the time with my grantees that I'm working with. It's a wonderful online tool. The GMS CBT is obviously the grants management system, but it's computer-based training. So especially as you go down the list, this would be what the homepage would look like when you go to that website. You're able to click on any one of these elements. So don't lose sight of this during the entire life of your grant, because you can see that if at any point in time you wanted to submit a grant adjustment notice after talking to your OJJDP program manager, on the website you could click on grant adjustment notices and it would take you to the next page where there's a drop-down menu of all the different types of GANs that you can generate. And when you click on your choice, it will take you screen by screen to show you what it is that you need to do in GMS to generate and submit a grant adjustment notice. You'll see also under GANs that there's guidance for submitting a progress report. So if you're a brand new grantee with us, this is a very helpful tool if you're trying to navigate GMS. So you have both the online tutorial and the help desk phone number where you'll talk directly with the technician who will be happy to assist you. And you'll also notice in the selection that if you keep tabs on this tutorial website, it will be helpful for you when you get to the very end of your grant and need to go through the closeout procedure. Financial reporting is also here, so it's just a handy thing to have in your back pocket for any point along the line. So with that, I think, well, let me just mention about the point of contact before I pass it along, please. It's important to make sure that there's a GMS profile that will list the programmatic point of contact that you select and the authorized representative and also the financial contact. Sometimes there can be turnover of staff that are working on the grants, and if you could please keep in mind that important messaging goes out automatically through the GMS system to whoever is listed in the GMS profile. That means that it's important for you to make sure that it's up to date and the right people are noted with their contact information in the profile. So you can change and modify that profile as individuals who are working on the grant change and you choose who your points of contact are going to be. So please keep that in mind and so that we're sure that all the important messages from GMS are reaching the correct people. So Kara, I'm going to turn it back over to you if I may.
Sure. I just want to talk a little bit. There's a link here. We know that sometimes, these links exist in lots of different documents. So we really wanted to just pull them all together into this presentation for you so that this could be kind of something that you could go back to as you need it. I think there was a question that came in about whether or not, people would receive a copy of this PowerPoint after, and actually Courtney did send out a zipped file with a bunch of different documents yesterday to everyone that registered. If you registered today, you may not have received that, but it contains this PowerPoint, and then we're also we're recording this webinar itself. We'll archive that and we'll send you out a link so that as you get new staff on, they can actually listen to this webinar. It won't be live, but they can at least get the information. So again, this is a link for the post-award instructions. It basically takes you through a process where you're able to draw down your funding on the award. And we also just wanted to bring to your special attention that in the award package itself, the official award package, there are a number of special conditions. These are listed in the back of the grant award document, and it's really important that both the programmatic and the financial contacts take a look at those special conditions, and that if you have any questions about them, you can direct them to your OJJDP program manager. So I'll just talk a little bit more on the next slide about meeting your special conditions. There is one special condition that you'll notice on there that basically says that you're able to draw down 25% of your total grant award. And then there is a deliverable expected to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and once that deliverable is sent to us and is reviewed, then that special condition will be reviewed and will be released, and you'll be able to then have access to the other 75% of your funding. So basically, that special condition is kind of a flag for both you and us to that there's a deliverable due. And for those of you who have maybe had a grant with this office before, the way that we're going to do this is a little bit different this year. And it's basically, if you look at the slide, there's a needs assessment that's going to be done with the Training and Technical Assistance Center. They're going to do that during the month of January, and it's going to be done in a phone call with your technical assistance coordinator, and they're going to go over with you the kinds of technical assistance and training that you might need in order to get your program off the ground. So it's really just a conversation that helps them understand how they can best serve your program. And then you're going to get more information on a community readiness study, which is basically, it's a method for you to engage your youth and your community a little bit more deeply around, what you've proposed in your program, and to kind of take a temperature on the things in your community that would help you understand, where they are in terms of the program that you're proposing. And then out of that, there'll be an implementation plan that you'll put together and send to your program manager by May 30th of next year. This is basically considered a planning period from now until May 30th. And that implementation plan, basically, it gives you another chance to make some changes to that proposal if changes need to be made. Sometimes we understand that grants are written and things change, and you may have had other resources come in, you may have had a change in leadership, you may have just new conditions that you need to build into your plan. So this gives you a chance to, with the Training and Technical Assistance Center and with the help of the readiness study that they're going to be helping to walk you through, to kind of basically update your implementation plan. And then once the OJJDP program managers review and approve that, that special condition will be removed. So we just wanted to call your attention to that. We'll be having more discussions about it, as time goes on. You'll be hearing more from us, but as you review them, we just wanted to make you aware of that. And then that last blue box at the end just talks more about additional components that are going to be, that the new TA Center is going to be assisting you with. And then on the next slide, we'll just talk a little bit about the financial piece. There's a lot of different resources for you here. I would just call your attention to the last bullet point on this slide. It's a financial management training, and it takes you through a lot of different things that it's really important for whoever is going to be managing the financial reports on this grant to understand. Especially if you're used to reporting on other federal grants. Unfortunately, they're not all the same, and so if you do not have a financial person that's on this webinar with you now, but you're going to be working with your finance office to make sure these reports are in, I would call this particular link to their attention, because it really is a good online training. They can do it whenever they want, and it'll save you a lot of trouble in the long run. So there's also the first bullet point there is the financial guide, And you can actually, there's a PDF version of that, and you can search for different items. And then we've also included a link to the food and beverage policy. The food and beverage policy has been a source of concern for people. A few years back, there was a rule that was made that basically no Department of Justice funds could be used on food and beverages that were associated with conferences. We've spent a lot of time advocating inside the Office of Justice Programs that the tribal youth programs should be able to use some of their funding to provide snacks or other kinds of things for young people, especially if you have after-school programs or other kinds of needs. So that often will take a little bit of communication on our part with our finance office, but you should just be aware that unless that the food and beverages are specifically approved in your budget, that they will be deemed to be not allowable should you ever have an audit. So if you know that you're going to need to use some of this funding to provide food for youth programs, please do have a conversation with your program manager and ensure that that's specifically approved in your budget. Okay, and then we're going to have another poll.
Okay, thank you, Kara. And we're just going to wait for the new poll to populate. And like the previous poll, none of the answers are going to be individualized. It's all going to be cumulative, and so no one will be singled out. We just want to get an idea of where we are as a group. So the question is, does your program have an identified financial accountant to help with financial reporting and grants management? Please select 1. Yes, we have an identified accountant. No, we do not have an identified accountant. Well, we're unsure, don't quite know. So I'll give you a few seconds to respond, and we'll see where we sit. So what we really like about this is we like that we're able to get information immediately. It really helps us think and plan, and so we appreciate your input and your participation and bearing with us. I think we can check off. This is an example of us. Of that sacrifice, element of sacrifice in terms of our comfort and awkwardness on awkward silence. So, all right, so it looks like the poll results are in. 76% have identified that yes, we do have an identified accountant. 4%, no, we do not have an identified accountant. Or 20% is unsure or do not know. And so, based on those numbers, I think we're looking pretty good, and I think that that's probably reflective of what we would see in a lot of different situations. So thank you again for helping us out with this poll, and we will transition back to our slides now, and I'm going to turn it back over to Kara.
I think it's Sherry, and I'm happy to pick up at this particular point on just covering what we see on the screen together. This particular slide is just outlining the different types of reports that are required by the Office of Justice Programs. The first is the SF425 identifier for the financial status report that's on an Office of Management and Budget standard form, and those are due quarterly. The due date is January 30th, then April 30th, July 30th, October 30th. You can see that every 3 months there is a report that is due. And then your CAPRA, what we call a CAPRA, is a Categorical Assistance Progress Report, a narrative report about the progress of your program due 2 times a year. January 30th is the due date, July 30th, as you can see, and then the DC TAT is going to be discussed as the data control technical assistance tool. And after I've gone over a couple of slides here, Ursula is going to talk to you about the DC TAT. So if we could look at the next slide, please. We'll just go a little more deeply into the Federal Financial Report. What I just want to point out is that what is reported on no later than January 30th is the fiscal activity and the report that you need to do between October 1 and December 31. And here's where you're reporting actual expenditures, as you can see, for the reporting period, not drawdowns or projected expenditures. We're trying to get a real picture of what actually has been expended and drawn down. And so when you talk about a report being due on no later than April the 30th, if you go beyond those deadline dates, the report is considered late by the GMS. So you can see that you actually have, in that first section, you have like from January 1 to January 30th to get your report in. And then when your report period covers January 1st through March 31st, then you have a month to get that report submitted. April 1 through June 30th is the period of time that you would be reporting your expenditures on, and you have a month from the end of June to the end of July to get that report submitted. So you don't want to go past these due dates. July 1 through September 30 is the 4th quarterly report, and that's the time frame that you would be reporting in on the actual expenditure done. Now, the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, that's OCFO, has a help desk, and if you have any questions regarding their federal financial reporting, you can turn to them at an 800 number that's listed there for your use. And if we could move to the next slide, please. This is about the Categorical Assistance Progress Reports. And for TYP grantees, these are due twice a year, January 30th and July 30th. This would also apply to the Healing to Wellness Court recipients as well. The first progress report for the 2015 grantees is going to cover October 1 through December 31 and is due no later than January 30th, as you can see. It's a shorter time frame upon which to report because your award project period begins on October 1st. But once you begin the cycle of reporting, then you're really reporting on 6 months of work. And it is submitted online through the GMS system. I had mentioned that earlier when I was pointing out the training tool that is available online. And you want to watch, please make sure that your reports come in a timely fashion, because there's an automatic hold placed on your access to funds for an overdue report, and that freezes your funds until the report is submitted. So it's much better for those operating a grant to make sure that their reports are due in on time. And I just encourage when you are reporting to, Carrie mentioned before, and I think I did as well, that part of the responsibility of an OJJDP program manager is to read your reports, and it gives us a sense. Please keep in mind that though we would love to be among you on a day-to-day basis and to know exactly how the program is unfolding from day to day, we're not in a position to do that sitting in Washington, D.C. And so whatever you put into your written reports is really our window to all that is being accomplished at the point where activity is occurring. And so I really do encourage specificity. It doesn't have to be huge and long, but you're welcome to upload attachments to help us get a snapshot of what's been happening during the period of that report. Please don't report on anything that was in a prior report period or anything that you're projecting to do. The purpose, like the fiscal report, the purpose of the progress report is to outline exactly what happened during the time frame that you are reporting. And one other thing that you can do, which I encourage my grantees to do, is to let the strategic plan or the work plan kind of help be your guide, where you're outlining what you hope to achieve within a certain time frame. Just look for the portion of the plan that applies to the report period, and it can guide you to make sure that you're reporting out everything that gives you the credit for the good work that you're doing. So there are other tips you will see in the new grantee orientation packet for the CAPA report. And with that, I believe that the next person that will be coming up is Ursula. Could I please see the next slide? Okay, I am going to be turning this over to Ursula, and I just want to comment that Ursula Murdaugh is a tremendous resource, along with her colleagues at the CSR International Incorporated company that works for OJJDP in the operation of the DC TAT. She has a wealth of knowledge, as do all of her colleagues there, and so Ursula is going to be one of your new best friends. And so Ursula, I'm going to turn this over to you so that you can really talk about the DC TAT report. But again, you will see from this slide that it is a report that is due at the same time as your CAPA report, and Ursula will explain how, but that particular report needs to be added as an attachment to your CAPRA so that report process is complete. Ursula, I'm going to pass it to you with my thanks for your help in explaining DC TAP.
Thank you so much, Sherry, and hello, everyone. As Sherry introduced me, I'm Ursula Murdaugh. I'm happy to say that I am pleased to share this time with you to provide information about one of your reporting requirements. As Sherry mentioned, I work with CSR Incorporated, and we partner with OJJDP, and sorry, you can go to the next slide. We partner with OJJDP to support you, the grantees, understand the types of data that is required for submission as performance measures data. If there's not anything else you remember about what I say in the next few slides, the quick and dirty version is that your reporting requirement is to collect data for performance measures. This data is collected from your grant-funded activities. You'll submit this data into the data collection and technical assistance tool that we affectionately call the DC TAT. Then that system, the DC TAT, will help you create a report that you'll upload as an attachment into the grants management system, as Sherry has shared, that will be needed for that system to check the box that you have submitted another report to meet your reporting requirements. The next slide. For the tribal grant programs, OJJDP has developed a set of core measures that are mandatory for all OJJDP-funded programs. These measures ask for data, for example, on the number of youth or youth and families that are served, the number of evidence-based programs that have been implemented with the assistance of OJJDP funds, and then outcomes of youth that have participated in your programs. Most measures require you to count people or the number of times something has occurred. There is no wrong answer. The data helps OJJDP to understand progress towards the program's goals and objectives, as well as providing support for future funding and policy decisions. The next slide. Data is collected for a 6-month period of activity for the Tribal Youth Program and Tribal Healing to Wellness Courts Project. That 6-month time frame is January to June and July through December. And data is also collected annually if you're a recipient of Tribal Juvenile Accountability Discretionary Program funds, then your data is collected from October through September. OJJDP provides for a planning period during the initial phase of the grant project period for those of you who are new to receiving OJJDP funds. The planning questions help OJJDP staff understand where you are with planning and implementation activities. The CSR Help Desk team is available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30 Eastern Time, by toll-free number, as you see here on the slide, as well as an email address. And what we do is to answer your questions about the measures or navigation of the system to help you successfully create the report that is needed in GMS. We also deliver training on the measures and the system by webinar and also in person when we're, and those trainings, those webinars are recorded and posted on the DCTAT website for your review at any time you're available to do so. The next slide, we develop materials for your use on the measures and system that are posted to the DCTAT homepage. Also included in these resources are a user guide and data reports that are developed as a result of the data collected. In closing, if you're new or even a veteran to the DCTAT, please contact the email address or toll-free number listed so that you can register to access the system, or if we can just answer any questions to help make your data submission process more successful. We wish everyone good luck and thank you for the great work that you're doing in the field to serve tribal youth. I guess I turn it over to Kara.
And the next slide, this is just another reference slide. These are all help desks that are available to you when you are doing this reporting. Your first report is going to be due at the end of January. I know that's, that might feel awkward because you didn't get the reporting period that you'll be reporting on is from July through December of 2015, and it'll be due at the end of January of 2016. Chances are you really are not going to have, hardly anything to report on. I mean, the one thing that you definitely would be able to say is that you attended the new grantee orientation webinar. Hopefully you'll be able to say that you have been in the process of hiring staff. If there are other things that you've been doing, which would be great, you would report on those as well. But you don't have to feel anything about, reporting that this is the beginning of your program. But it will be due, and if you don't turn it in, unfortunately, it automatically freezes your funds, and your program manager can't actually do anything about that because it's automatically triggered by a non-submission. So all that is to say that you're going to need to submit these reports, these program reports, at the end of January, and these help desks are available to help you. And the financial report, as you heard from Sherry, has a different timeline than the program reports, but basically all these help desks are there if you were to get stuck, if you're not sure, if it's unclear, if it's confusing, if you don't know where to go next. Do call those help desks and they can walk you through it. I also would really recommend to do yourself a favor and do it a little earlier than the deadline so that you don't have to feel stressed, and also you'll have better access to the help desk. If you wait until the very last minute, then there tends to be more people calling in and you might not get as good of service. So this is a reference slide for you, and please do feel free. This is for your benefit, so please feel free to use it. And we're going to have an additional poll question now.
Hello. Thank you, Carrie. Kara. I appreciate that, and I know that's a lot of information there. So we're hoping that we're generating some questions for you along the way, and that you can, towards the end of the presentation, we'll have a slide for questions, and so we'll be looking for those questions to come through the chat box. But if you feel so, you can start entering those in as well. But right now, what we're going to do this polling question a little bit different. We're going to use the chat feature, and really just to kind of help us, again, get a bird's eye view of the highest priority for technical support based on your current stage of your projects. And also recognizing that very early on as new grantees, but we also understand that some of you may be continuing grantees as well. But here's a list of topics or areas of technical support. And so if you see something on there, don't limit your answers to just one, but we invite you to submit an answer in the chat box. And so what is the highest priority for technical support based on your current stage of your project? It could be community engagement. It could be community engagement and workforce. And you might want to explain that a little more, or if it's training or staffing. It could be policies and procedures. It could be all of the above, or it could be unknown. So I ask that you please enter in the text box. I'll give you a few seconds to enter in so we can start getting some ideas. And if you're unsure or you're not quite sure and it's unknown to you at this time of your priority for technical support, then let us know that as well. And because it's okay. And that's what this whole as Kara had reviewed in the special conditions section, that your technical assistance coordinator will be contacting you and be doing the technical assistance needs assessment. And so we'll be working with you to flesh these out and to really hone in on the supports that you might need for your grant program. Okay, well, I think at this time we're going to go ahead and move on to our next slide. And this will be me. And I'll take this opportunity to announce some upcoming key trainings and events. So as a new OJJDP tribal grantee, you are provided training throughout your first year to support your programmatic requirements and increase your capacity to successfully implement your grant. There are opportunities for trainings that are required as part of the special conditions of your grant award. The first being your attendance at the new Tribal Grantee webinar, which is we're at today. And over the course of the next few months, each grantee will have various activities that will help you proceed toward a community-driven, community-based strategic planning process that will meet the requirements of the special conditions while laying the foundation for services and deliverables. So as you can see the slide, the following is outlined. So today is the online webinar, the new grantee orientation webinar, and so we're making note of who's attended, and we have the registration, and we thank you for participating in our polls and being with us today. The next event that I want to highlight, beginning in January, we have a January 19th, we're going to be kicking off our Communities of Practice. That is a training event that we're offering as a part of our training and technical assistance here at Indian Country Child Trauma Center. And it's going to be a series of webinars. We're calling it a Community of Practice. And actually, it's more than just a series of webinars. It's monthly interactions with your TA provider, your TA coordinator. We're going to be working in groups and working with pairing up with other grantees and developing your strategic plans We're going to actually be targeting the Healing to Wellness grantees, but we'll also invite the tribal youth grantees to participate in the communities of practice. It's open to all grantees and tribes, so it's not just going to be the Healing to Wellness, the grantees. However, the grantees and the Healing to Wellness grantees are going to get a little extra special attention from our TA coordinators. And but a part of the communities of practice, there's going to be a series of webinars that are going to happen on a monthly basis from January through May. The rest of the dates are yet to be announced, but please mark your calendars for January 19th as the kickoff date for our first communities of practice. And more information will be shared at that date, at that start date, about the community of practice. And between now and then, we will send out more information in terms of expectations, how to get ready, and how to prepare for the communities of practice. And so we're looking forward to that. We also have the DCAT, or the DC TAT Performance Measures and Training, and those dates are there in front of you. December 18th from 2 to 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. That is a webinar. January 5th, 3 o'clock through 4:30 Eastern Time, and that's also a webinar. Those are TYP trainings. And also the CTAS orientation invite will go out to the CTAS point of contacts in the grants management system. And those dates are February 1st and 2nd in Reno, Nevada. So be looking for that. There's a CTAS orientation face-to-face meeting that is being organized February 1st and 2nd. As I'd mentioned up above with the communities of practice, we're targeting the Healing to Wellness grantees, and so we're going to get that extra one-on-one from your TA coordinator. Well, our tribal youth programs, the TYP grantees, are also getting some extra special attention with their TA coordinators, but we're going to kick that off in Reno with a grantee meeting, a face-to-face meeting, February 3rd through 5th, and it's going to target our tribal youth programs, and we're going to use the Gathering of Native Americans model, or GONA, the GONA model. And if you're familiar with that model, you know that it's a great model and great way to set the foundation and the framework for the planning for your community, for your activities, and for your program development. And so we're looking forward to that face-to-face time with the tribal youth programs, and also the continued work that we're going to be doing with the Healing to Wellness programs. So those are some key training dates and events to be looking forward to. Please put those on your calendar.
And I just wanted to say one thing, Courtney, this is Karen.
Yes. Yes.
So I just wanted to point out the CTAS orientation and the TYP grantee meeting. You can see that they're back-to-back. This is a new strategy that we're doing this year. Those of you who have gotten CTAS grants in the past, the orientation has been very separate from the other purpose area training. And this year, the CTAS orientation and each purpose area specific training are going to be co-located and happening together in Reno. We did not this year include the Healing to Wellness grants because we need a little bit more time to plan. We want to spend a little bit more time with you to figure out what the best way to get what you need to you. And so we will be back in touch with you about when your face-to-face meeting will be. But we needed a little bit more time to kind of assess your needs and to see where your programs are. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that this CTAS orientation and the TYP meeting in Reno is new, and your points of contact, your tribal leaders and your authorizing officials, those people that are in GMS, will be getting that CTAS orientation, and I would say probably within the next few days you'll see that. And again, if you have questions, you can certainly contact your program manager.
Great, thank you, Kara. Thank you for that explanation, that further explanation. So, Okay, let's move on. We have one more poll. I believe this is our last poll for the day. And so as it's loading, I'll just say a little bit. As we noticed on the last slide, we're talking about the training and events. One of the events and models that we're using is the GONA, or the Gathering of Native Americans model. And so we just wanted to ask all of you, has your community utilized Gathering of Native Americans, or GONA? Have you used the GONA model before? And so we ask that you please select one. Yes, currently using the GONA. Have used in the past but not currently. Have never used in the past but would like to. Or have never heard of GONA. So I'm going to give you a few moments to enter your selections. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and populate our answers. Oh, wow, great. So according to our answers here, it looks like 54% of our participants today have never used in the past but would like to. So that's great news, because that's one of the models that we hope to introduce to your programming, to your planning, and into your communities. And 33% have never heard of GONA, and 13% have used in the past but are not currently. And so we look forward to sharing with those that haven't heard of GONA. We look forward to sharing more about it and helping and inviting you to participate in that process. And so again, we're really excited about the model, and I'm glad that at least 54% of you have used it and would like to. But with that, I want to say thank you. Tiffany, can you bring us back to our slides? Now, we're on the tail end of our presentation here, but we want to take a few minutes to go to questions. Or are there any questions maybe that this presentation has brought about for you? So I know we were asking that you submit your questions in the chat box. And I'm going to ask and call upon the other speakers and panelists to help me look in the chat box and make sure that there's not any, see if we can answer some of the questions together. Or and I'm not really even seeing any questions at this time. So there was a question about if we were going to get copies of the slides, and Kara had mentioned that they've been sent out, and they're also going to be available in various ways, various methods. In addition to the slides, we also sent by email an orientation packet, which included the slides as well as some other documents, and really just very condensed version of a lot of the things that you heard about today, and kind of with links and quick links to get to some of the tools that we heard about today, the reporting tools, the reporting requirements. We also included some acronyms, because we know when we begin any kind of new program, a lot of new acronyms come along with it, and sometimes we can use some little assistance making sense of the alphabet soup, and so we have included that acronym sheet for you. But that, again, just like the slides, will be made available to you, and so we look forward to hearing more questions about that. And again, you can always ask your program manager as well as your TA coordinator, but right now you have direct access to your program manager, and so we encourage you to ask any questions that you have for them. Carrie, do you have anything that you'd like to say here? Or any other presenters?
I noticed, I hope that people have the answers that they need from the questions that they've submitted in the chat box. but if you need more clarification, if you can just type it in, if you didn't get, exactly what you needed. I did want to just say that there was a question earlier specifically about what your TYP grant funds can pay for. So there was a person who specifically asked if they could use TYP grant funds to bring in Native American Church roadman, and whether they could sponsor a meeting for your youth on tribal land. And so in some cases, I would say that the best thing is to really work with your program manager, because in that particular case, that is not a question that I've heard asked before. What I do know is that honorariums are not allowable. So our finance office doesn't allow us to pay anything called an honorarium. They will deem it as not allowable. But there are stipends that are paid in different programs. Sometimes there's a speaker's fee that's paid. I'm not sure if that's something that might be able to be used for that purpose. But it is a unique situation. So I would say that the best thing that you can do is to have a conversation and explain the specifics of your question to your program manager, and they can, sometimes they even have to get like a person from our finance on the phone to explain some things that they might not understand. So I hope that helps.
They have to also justify the necessity of it and how it's going to be beneficial to the actual grant award.
That's right. That's a great point. So often what our finance office is looking for is exactly what Angela is saying here, is that you have to help people understand how what you're asking for relates back to the goals and objectives that are in your program, and that's how it's going to benefit the program, right? So there are some kind of more strict rules, and one of them again is that honorariums are not allowable, because I guess they see it as a payment, just like a payment that doesn't have to do with the service that's being rendered, so they don't allow that. And the other kind of more strict rule is that when you bring in a consultant, and lots of programs bring in consultants for different things. It could be to be a speaker, or it could be to help them set up an evaluation system, or it could be somebody with specific expertise that you would bring in to help your program. And those consultant fees, the maximum rates are pretty much set in stone here at DOJ. And it doesn't mean that you can automatically pay the maximum rate. You have to sort of justify the rate that you would be paying. But if you want to pay anything over $650 for an 8-hour day, you have to have a waiver, which requires additional paperwork and additional justification. So I know it's hard to keep, there's a lot of different rules for a lot of different agencies and a lot of different grants that your tribe might have. But that's partly why I'm suggesting that you also go back and do that webinar, the financial training. But that is one of the things that you should be very aware of, that if you're paying a consultant more than that maximum daily rate, and you were to get an audit, that would be deemed an unallowable cost unless you have the waiver.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you for that explanation. Also wanted to offer that as a technical assistance, Indian Country Child Trauma Center, we're here as well to help maybe with that translation. I call it a translation. And because oftentimes some of our traditional or tribal approaches, tribally based, community-based approaches need a little bit of translating to fit some of our reporting systems. But we know that they translate really well, and that and so we want to work with you, and so we'll also be available for that. So as much as possible, and so I just kind of wanted to share that much, that because when you talk, like for instance, the question that was asked about a roadman and about a meeting, certainly being a very cultural approach there, we could help think about what might be appropriate or how we can frame that and really get to what it is that we're trying to accomplish there. And so don't forget to use us as a resource as you begin to plan these things and make those requests. So, okay. If there are no more questions, I have other eyes looking at our chat board. Are there any questions that I'm missing? Okay. I don't see any more questions, so we're going to go on to our next slide. And like anything, evaluation. So we want to, one, remind that all activities should have an evaluation component, and encourage you to think that evaluation is a way of checking of what's working and what might not be working with regards to the direction that we anticipated. So evaluation is a part of self-reflection, helps us to get to know ourselves and our communities at a different level. So that's how we, as a TA Center, approach evaluation. And so we're going to be talking about evaluation in those kinds of ways. But to model that, we're asking you to help us evaluate our performance today and the orientation webinar. So you will receive a survey link for an evaluation that will be emailed from Tribal Tech. And so be looking for that following the webinar today. And it will be sent to the email that was used to register and to log on. And so we'll be looking for that, and we ask that you please respond, and we look forward to hearing from you. And we want to thank Tribal Tech for taking that role and helping us do this self-reflection, and we appreciate you in those resources. Tribal Tech has been essential in helping us launch our webinar today, and so again, I want to thank them for that. Also, before we close out here, we want to share a little bit more about the face-to-face meeting that the Tribal Youth Programs will be having in Reno in February. And so we've contacted most of you, Tribal Youth Programs. So if you have a Tribal Youth Program, we ask that you stay with us. At the end of this webinar, there's going to be another call-in number that you can call in to that number. So at the end of this webinar, we're asking you to hang up and then dial back into the call-in number that will be on the screen. We'll leave it up for a few minutes and join us for a 10 to 15-minute conversation to hear more about that meeting in Reno. And so we ask that all of our Tribal Youth Programs join us on that call following these slides here. So that will be at the end. That'll be the last slide. We want to thank you for your presence, your spirit, your good works. We look forward to a long, harmonious relationship. If you have any questions, you can call us at this number here, email us. We also have a website that you can visit. And as we opened, we did an opening, and we opened tried to open in a good way. We're going to try to come full circle, and we're going to close in a good way as well. So, in closing, we need to think about the past in order to go forward. We need to remember those who have come before us and have left prints for us. We are now leaving prints for our next generations. Remember that we have a good journey together. We're not ending this, but we're opening our circle to each other, and let us go forward in a good way. And aho, mado, thank you, and all the other ways to say thank you. So we thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us. And again, we ask, we're going to transition to our last slide, and as we log off and everyone goes their ways, we look forward to our next conversations together. And Tribal Youth Programs, we ask that you call into this line, and we'll be waiting for you over there. Thank you all for a successful webinar meeting, and have a great day.